Good morning. It is Thursday, August 3rd, 2023, 11:51 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this morning, approaching soon the afternoon, I would like to talk to you guys about owning an apartment because more often than not, I hear a lot of young people always talking about how they want to move out of their parents' home and how living with their parents or living with family is causing their mental health to decline. But what I want young people to consider, and anyone who is thinking about owning an apartment, is everything that is required of you to own an apartment, everything that must you must be responsible for in owning an apartment. And so the very first thing that you want to consider when searching the market for an apartment is, first of all, your employment, which is your income. You want to be able to have enough money to afford not only rent, but also you need to have enough money to afford the things that you have as bills already before you even begin to start to look for apartments. For example, you might have a phone bill. Right now, you might have a credit card bill. You might have a loan. You might have a car payment. And if you have a car payment, that likely means you also have car insurance. So when you talk about how your parents are causing your mental health to decline, how much more will your mental health decline when you move into an apartment and you don't have enough money to pay your bills? So your mental health even declines more financially. Your mental health might be declining living with your parents because you're young. You're young. You you want to be able to do it on your own. That's the mentality of a young person, is they want to get as far away from their parents or their siblings or their family members as possible, because young people have this mentality of, I can do it on my own. I don't need anyone's help. My family sucks. My home life sucks. And you put on this negative hat on, and you unfortunately you cause a lot of your own mental health. A lot of it is coming from you because of your perspective, because of your mentality, and because of your attitude. And those three things, perspective, mentality, and attitude, can really take a heavy toll or an impact in your life depending on the outlook of those three things. If your mentality living with your parents is negative, if your approach or if your attitude towards living with your siblings or living with your family is negative, you're not going to see how much it actually is beneficial for you, because living in an apartment doesn't necessarily equate or equal to your life getting better. And one of the reasons why I am expressing this perspective to you is because owning an apartment and renting an apartment, not owning an apartment, renting an apartment, is takes a lot of responsibility, and it requires you to think maturely. And you go into the apartment already with bills. As I mentioned earlier, you go into the apartment with phone bills, credit card bills, loans, car and car insurance. Are you considering those bills that you have? already before you even begin to think, can I really afford to live in an apartment? Because when you move into an apartment, it's not like you can just move in and voila, you can start paying rent. You have to you have to know a lot about what moving to an apartment means, because when you start to apply for different apartments, there is the application fees, there are the administration fees, there might also be a down payment, which is likely going to be your security deposit. And if you have pets that you want to take with you, then there's going to be a pet deposit, and your rent is going to increase because you have pets. And then you might have to pay the apartment to get keys and to get the gate remote and to get the parking space, and you might have to pay a little bit more in your rent to have a parking space. And some of the things that you want to consider when moving into an apartment is what is included in the rent. Do you have to pay separate for the sewer and the water and the trash? Or are those three things included in your rent? Some apartments they're included, some apartments they're not. I know for here in my apartment, I have to pay utilities like sewer, water, trash that are added to my monthly rent. And so, what's included in the apartment? What do you have to pay outside of the rent? As I mentioned just a moment ago, like sewer, water, trash. How much is it going to cost you to keep the lights on, like electricity? And who do you have to call to turn the electricity on? How do you get in contact with the electricity company, and what are their rates that are going to that you're going to need to be paying on top of the rent, on top of the sewer, water, and trash if it's not included, on top of your phone and your credit card if you have a car or if you have car insurance, on top of loans and on top of the gas for the car. And is your how is the apartment gas? Is it an electric stove? Is it a gas stove? And if it's a gas stove, how much is it going to cost you to keep the gas on? Who do you have to contact to turn the gas on? And does your apartment charge you for pest control? How much is it to how much do they charge on to your rent when they're charging you for pest control? And so these are just some of the small things, but very important things that you must consider into your search or your thoughts when it comes to, can I afford to move into an apartment? And one of the things that you might want to consider before moving into an apartment is there a roommate I can live with? Can I move into somebody that I will be sharing an apartment with? Is there anybody that I know that I can move in with them as a roommate before I try to move into an apartment? Because you might need to have a little bit of taste for what it's like to live on your own by first getting a roommate, and then you might be able to get an apartment later after you've kind of have understood what it's like to live on your own. And one of the things that you also want to consider when talking about moving into an apartment is, does the apartment have a fridge? Does the apartment have AC? Do I have to buy fans? Does do I want carpet or hardwood floors? Because if you get carpet, you're going to need to buy a vacuum, and if you have hardwood floors, then you're going to need to buy a good mop, and a bucket. And one of the things that you also want to consider is, does the apartment have a gym? Because if it does have a gym, and you have uh, uh, the bills right now you might have is that you might pay for the gym. And so, does the apartment include a gym? What's in the gym? Does the apartment gym, if it's included, have everything that I need to work out, like a treadmill, like an elliptical, like dumbbells, like cable bars? And so these are some of the things that you want to consider that are very important when you're thinking about moving into an apartment, or like I mentioned, getting a roommate first and seeing what it's like to live on your own. Does the apartment have a laundromat? Does the apartment have wash-in hookups hookups for a washer and dryer? Can you even afford to have a washer and dryer? I know some apartments include a physical washer and dryer in them, but how much more is that going to cost you in rent for having that enmity inside of the apartment? And so there's some apartments that have hookups to bring your own washer and dryer. There's some apartments that have them already physically inside of the unit, and there's some apartments that don't have a hookup for a washer and dryer. And so what do you need? What do you want? What do you desire? Looking for an apartment is like looking for a car. Does the car have to have an auxiliary cord? Does the car have to be a hybrid? Does the car have to be all-wheel drive? Does the car have to have a sunroof? How much miles per gallon do I want the car to be? Does the car need to be a certain color? And so these are some of the things that you need to consider when you're thinking about looking for an apartment, because we always settle for the very first thing we see, but you must shop around and keep your options open when looking for an apartment. And it's very important that you never just settle for the very first apartment that you see. You must shop around the entire area that you're looking to move move at that you're looking to move to, in order for you to see what the best option is for you. And so laundry is very important to consider, because your apartment complex might have the laundromat inside of the complex, but sometimes the apartment laundromat is probably more expensive than knowing where the local laundromat is next to your apartment. I personally have a washer and hookup, a hookup for a washer and dryer inside my apartment, but I like to wash my clothes at the laundromat. And so everybody is unique, everybody is different. And another thing to consider is, does the apartment have a microwave? And if the apartment doesn't have a microwave, how much is it going to cost you to buy a microwave? And can you afford furniture? Are you able to afford furniture? Because when you move into the apartment, it's going to be empty. So how much is it going to cost you to have a TV? How much is it going to cost you to have a couch? How much is it going to cost you to buy dressers and drawers to keep your clothes? How much is it going to cost you to have a bed and a mattress and frames and a bed frame for your mattress? And how are you going to cook your food? Do you need to get pots, pans, and utensils? Do you need to send a Facebook status update and throw yourself a housewarming party, so that way people can donate things to you and gift you things that you are going to be needing in your apartment, like hangers, or like an iron, or an ironing board, or towels, um, or washcloths? So there is a lot of responsibility that you must consider when thinking about moving into an apartment. Can you afford it? That is the biggest question. Can you afford to live in an apartment? Um, uh, Let me give you a couple of examples. There, if you have a job right now and you're getting paid $8 an hour, well, that equivalates to $1,280. So let's just say that your apartment is $800 a month and you get paid 1,280, but likely that is also not including the tax that gets out. So let's just say that there is an 11% tax that gets taken out of your check, which is $140. So $140 gets taken out of your check for tax, and so you get paid $8 an hour. You work 40 hours a week, which equates to $1,280 a month. But then you also get taxed $140, which leaves you with $1,140. Your apartment rent is $800 a month, and then you also have to include the sewer, water, trash, which is $15 a month, and you also have to include the utilities like pest control and the other maybe um, things that are included in your rent. Maybe there is something like a property risk fee, so that's another $15, and that's electricity is going to cost you maybe about $100, and gas might cost you $10, which leaves you with $200 left over after the tax has been taken out, after the rent has been accounted for, after sewer, water, and trash, and electricity and gas and pest control have been accounted for. But then you also might have a credit card, which is $50 a month. You might also have a loan taken out, which is another $75 a month, uh, which leaves you with no money. And then you have your car payment, which is $250 a month. And then you also have car insurance, which is $150 a month. And then you also have your phone bill, which is $80 a month. So you still have to come up with $480 on top of the 40 hours that you work, getting paid $8 an hour. And so as you can see, living in an apartment is expensive. And so let's just say that you don't have a job yet and that one day you're hoping to move into an apartment. Well, how much is it going to cost you? How much do you need to be making from your job in order for you to live inside your own apartment? So let's just throw out some numbers. Let's just say that your rent is $900 a month, and then let's just say that you want to have a pet, and so that's another $50 a month, and so that's $950 that you have to pay for rent, plus the $50 a month for your pet rent. And let's just say sewer, water, trash, and pest control is $30 a month, and let's just say the electricity is $100 a month. Let's say your phone bill is uh, $85 a month, plus a credit card that you pay $50 a month on, a loan that you pay $60 a month on, plus your car payment, which is $250 a month, plus insurance, which is $125, which equals $1,650. And that is also not including groceries. That's not including the household supplies that you need, like toilet paper and hand soap and trash bags and toothpaste. That's also not including if you have any subscriptions to things like Hulu and Netflix and Disney Plus or HBO, or your internet bill, your cable bill, and that's still not including gas. That's still not including um, any kind of entertainment or any kind of fun money, and so we're at $1,650 right now that you'd have to be making in order for you just to break even without also including groceries. So let's just say groceries are going to cost you $300 a month, and let's say that your basic household supplies per month, like toilet paper, hand soap, trash bags, pet food, toothpaste, that's going to cost you $200 a month. So now we're at $2,150, and let's say you spend $200 on gas a month, and now you're at $2,350. And so as you can see, living in an apartment is very expensive, and young people always tend to never ever take into account how stressful their lives are going to be when they're trying to figure out how to pay the bills, because you have to pay rent, you have to pay pet rent if you want a pet in your home, you have to pay sewer, water, and trash, you have to pay electricity, you have to pay gas, you have to pay for the pest control, you have to pay for groceries, You have to pay for household supplies. You have to pay for any subscriptions that you are currently have right now. You have to pay for the internet and cable bill. You also have to pay for your phone bill, your credit card if you have one, a loan if you have one out. You also have to pay for your car if you have one, and you on top of your car, you also have to pay for insurance. And then on top of that, you still have to pay gas. And if you have kids, you have to pay for daycare. And so young people are always, talking about how they want to move out, but they never take into account that it's expensive. It's very expensive. Working 15, if let's just say that you work a job and you get paid $15 an hour, and so at $15 an hour in a 40 work week, that equivalates to $2,400 in 1 month. $2,400 that you would be making in 1 month. And let's just say 11% of that is taxed, which means that $2,264 comes out of your check making $15 an hour per month. So $264, that leaves you with $2,136. And so let's say that your rent is $1,000 a month. And so let's say that a pet rent is $50 a month. Subtract that. And so let's say your sewer, water, trash is $30 plus pest control is included, so that's $30. Let's say your electricity is $100. Gas is $10 a month, which leaves you at $946. Let's say your phone bill is $85 a month. The credit card that you have is $50 a month. The loan that you have is $40 a month. The car payment that you have is $300 a month. The insurance that you pay on your car is $125, which leaves you with $346 plus let's subtract your internet bill, which is another $50, which leaves you with $296 to spend for groceries and household supplies and gas. So let's say that you have to spend $150 on gas, which leaves you only $146 left to buy groceries, to buy household supplies, and to have any kind of money for entertainment. So what I'm trying to get young people to understand is that unfortunately times are different than they were for our parents. Times are different for our parents than they were for our grandparents, and so on and so forth. It keeps getting more and more expensive to live on your own and to have your own apartment, and on top of that, to even own a home one day. And so you have to consider these things when you're thinking about moving into an apartment because it's very, very, very expensive. So what kind of job do you need to have in order for you to have the lifestyle that you want? What kind of schooling do you need to have when, or what kind of schooling, yeah, do you need to have if you want to be able to live a certain type of lifestyle in the future? And so this is why it's so important to maintain good credit, because when you have good credit, you will be able to have low interest rates on the things that you are going to be applying for in the future. And so I will talk about credit in a different video, but there are a lot of things that you must consider when moving into an apartment. For example, how far is your apartment from your work? Because gas is going to be one of the most expensive things that you're going to be purchasing when moving into an apartment. How far is your work from your apartment? Is it close by? Because if you can find an apartment that's close to your work, then you're not going to be spending so much money in gas. What is your biggest commute? That's what's important to consider is what is your biggest commute? How far is your apartment from your work? How far are the local highways from your apartment? And if you have kids, how much is it going to cost me to have daycare? And how far is the daycare from your apartment? Where is the nearest hospital from your apartment, just in case something happens? How far is school? If you're going to school, how far is the school from your apartment? Because you might not be going to work, but school might be your biggest commute. So if school is your biggest commute to and from your apartment, well, how close do you need to live to school in order for you to have not such a high gas bill for your car? How far are the local entertainment venues? What kind of entertainment do you need to be surrounded by in your apartment if that is what you're also looking for in having an apartment? How far are the local movie theaters, the bowling alley? How far is the bar if that's what you're into? And where is the bank? How far is the bank from your apartment? Do you know where the bank is at? Because the bank might be far away from you, and you might be paying a lot in fees taking out money when you need cash to use at other places like the grocery store or paying bills or whatever you might be needing cash for. How far is the gas station? What is the cheapest gas station around you? How far is the local county clerk's office like the DMV or the Social Security building? Because you might need to, go to the DMV from time to time. So how far is the DMV or the county clerk's office, just in case you need to ever do paperwork for the city through the city? Where's the closest grocery store? These are important things to consider when looking for an apartment, especially when it comes to your commute and especially when it comes to the grocery store. Where are the grocery stores in distance to your apartment? Where do you normally shop at? Because you're going to be needing food, so how far is the grocery store from your apartment? And so it's not easy. I know a lot of young people, they get so down on themselves because they want to move out so bad, but you must take into consideration that times are not like they were for our parents or their parents, which is our grandparents. Time is changing. It's getting more expensive. School is getting more expensive. The grocery store is getting more expensive. Gas always seems to be at a pretty unreasonable price, and they are making us want things that we don't really need, like high end fashion and subscriptions. And there is just so much that you must consider when you're thinking about moving into an apartment because it is very expensive, very, very expensive. And if you think that you can do it on your own, you're going to be very disappointed when you soon find out how responsible you must be when having an apartment because there's bills that need to be paid and there's money that needs to be saved up for the security deposit, for the application fees, for the administration fees, for the rent, for the pet deposit or pet rent, and also you're gonna have to buy renter's insurance as well. So I didn't even include that in all of the things that I've been doing with you. I haven't even included renter's insurance. So you're going to need to take into consideration a lot of things when it comes to, can I afford an apartment? Am I able to be comfortable living in an apartment without financially struggling? Because you might be struggling right now mentally living with your parents, but there's one thing struggling mentally with living with family who is your family, and you can't choose your family. And so there's one thing that comes with familial stress, but there's also a very different type of stress, and that's the financial stress. Because when you can't pay your bills and you move into an apartment not being able to afford it, what's going to happen if you get evicted and you can't pay your rent? And then you're going to have that on your credit report, and all of the bureaus are going to know that you got evicted from your apartment because you failed to pay the monthly rent deposit. You failed to pay the terms outlined in your lease, which is the rent and anything that might not be included with the rent, like sewer, water, and trash and utilities. And so you do not want to go into an apartment without first considering, can I afford an apartment? Because living with your parents or your siblings right now might be having a negative a negative uh, outcome in your life, but you also might be struggling even more when you think to yourself you can be living on your own because you don't take into consideration how expensive it is. You are being stubborn and you're not realizing that it's difficult to live in an apartment without having a roommate or without having somebody there to help you, like your grandparents or your uncle or an aunt. So I suggest to all of the young people out there that you take this into consideration when thinking about moving into an apartment. What kind of job do you need to be working at, and how much does that job need to pay you in order for you to be comfortable living in an apartment? Because you're going to want to save up money for an emergency, but you're also going to want to be needing money for entertainment or for your car that might break down or for uh, excuse me, a friend's birthday party or for going out with your friends. And so I suggest to you that you learn how to adapt and you learn how to blend into your environment despite the fact that you might not like where you are at right now. Nobody is in a position where they want to be in right now. We are all struggling. And I know a lot of you think to yourself, well, he's not struggling. No, I am. Don't don't let the devil or the demons in your head start to compare yourself. There is no need to compare yourself to me. 2 years ago, I was very much in a position where I couldn't pay my rent and I was overdrafting on my checking account. I was irresponsible. I couldn't even afford gas. I couldn't afford food. There was 2 years ago, I was looking in the dumpster for cans and bottles just to be able to have clean drinking water and gas in my car. And so I know what it's like to struggle, but it's taken me some time and it's taken me a lot of responsibility and soul searching in order for me to wake up and to realize how foolish I've been and to realize how irresponsible I was with not only the money that I was given and I was getting, but also I was irresponsible with the relationships I had with my family and my friends. And now look, I'm here alone with nothing to show for it. So I pray for you young people that you will take this video into consideration. Till next time.